Hello and welcome back. We are Blossom Whole Family Therapy and Child Psychology Center. This is a follow-up video. If you saw our first one, you may recognize some of the faces on the screen, but if not, I'll introduce everyone again. We have Dr. Carla Berkeley, licensed psychologist. I'm Dr. Gretchen Lewis-Snyder, also licensed psychologist. Dr. Paige Nelson-Ansley, licensed psychologist, and Kelsey Dressel, licensed clinical social worker. You might have noticed if you watched our first one, we have a fifth psychologist, Dr. Kasha Hoyan Zimmerman. And like many of you, she is doing the scramble to figure out schedule. And as it happens, she is married to a teacher, and her and so she's responsible for childcare during the day, and so she's had to shift her clients to the evening, which is when it works for us to do these little videos. And so we miss her, but I know she's very much part of our team and always has helpful things to say. So anyways, tonight we thought that it would be really helpful for us to talk about, because back to school is so on the forefront of everyone's minds right now, or everyone with school-age children. And it's August is always an interesting year because it's, this like the Sunday of summer, right? Where you're wrapping down, you're unwinding kind of summer and concluding that, and up ahead you're going to be beginning school and all of that entails. And this is like the mother of all August, right? Because it's just amplified what is ordinarily an interesting month and made it just really pretty bizarre. Even now, I'm not sure. I think there are families out there who still don't exactly know what school really is going to look like. I learned just at the end of last week when school starts and ends for my kids, which was helpful information for work planning and stuff like that. So we're very aware, and also aware that people might be looking for some really practical strategies. And so we're really hoping to focus a lot more on that tonight. And so hopefully you'll find this really useful. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. I think that we all know that kids are like barometers, and they really can sense when we're stressed, even if we think we're doing a pretty good job, and we probably are doing a pretty good job of, trying to keep our cool around the kids and not, try, shelter them a little bit from talking, but they nevertheless know, and they sense, and usually we can see it in their behavior. And so then it almost becomes an elephant in the room, right? Because they're aware something's amiss, but they don't necessarily know what. And so I thought, that might be good. Name it to tame it's kind of one of our, if there was a practical strategy from last time, I think that's one of them. Name it to tame it. So, I'm curious, you guys, what would you say kids are picking up on from the grown-ups these days as we're embarking on this interesting journey of a new school year?
I would say that just kind of a general discomfort with the ambiguity of what this school season is going to bring has been the biggest thing that I've seen with kids, and not really knowing how to ask questions and how to deal with the distress that comes when the parents don't know the answers to the questions that they do ask.
And I would go off of that kind of mixed feelings that are coming through. Like, some are looking forward to like having more structure in their day. So even if they are doing more distance learning, they're looking forward to kind of having a routine and structure again. While other kids that are maybe doing the hybrid model are still kind of confused about what the school year is going to look like. They don't know what days they're going or when they'll be home. There's a lot more unknowns and questions that I feel like are typically answered by now. A lot of typical Augusts, you'll have your back to school days, meeting your teacher. I do know that some schools are doing like picture days, so that's kind of part of the normal routine. But yeah, still a lot of questions and unknowns and kind of confusion as to like what the school year is going to be like.
And it seems like just a lot of shifting ground still, right? Like it's hard to find stability and predictability, and And I think that's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and usually when we name school, we can just know what school is going to bring, right?
Right.
For some of us and our families and kids, school itself is kind of one of those big things that come up with a lot of feelings. So this year, it's really hard when we name school, but we can't name it because we're not sure what it is, right?
Well,
Yeah.
because there's more to name. It's not just school anymore.
Right.
It doesn't, the name doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Absolutely. And sometimes that and just the name itself is engenders some of the biggest feelings that we see in our kids and for ourselves. But this year is a little different, as you said.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this. I don't think it's good for it to be the elephant in the room, right? Where there's all this unnamed emotion that's sort of being hidden or maybe expressed, but expressed without any real explanation. So what are some healthy ways to talk to kids about when we are stressed and carrying stress, so that we're not, our kids are not our friends, they're not our confidants, but still they are our barometers, and they do know when we're stressed. And so you guys, anybody have some practical suggestions for parents on how to help their kids name parent feelings to tame them?
I would focus on what we do know, because there is still some of those questions out there, but there are probably questions that have been somewhat answered. And so doing that in kind of like a developmentally appropriate way. So kind of knowing where your kid's at, answering those questions as honest and truthfully as possible. And starting where they're at too. So asking them some of those questions and kind of seeing what do they already know, and then kind of answer what you do know.
Yeah, I think that's good. I also think that it is okay when we've got grown-up stuff that's stressing us out. I think it's okay to say to kids, you know what, I got grown-up stuff that's on my mind, and I'm worried about it, and I'm stressed out about it, and I'm going to handle it, and I'm going to figure it out. But you can probably tell that my mind isn't all the way. I think we can name it in those kind of very developmentally appropriate terms, so that kids have an explanation when we're being forgetful, or when we're snapping a little more harshly than we intend, or we're short-tempered, or all the other things that go with being stressed out. I think that's actually really important to do. And also it's good modeling for them about making repairs when we do get snappy and irritable, because we're human, and we will. So I think that's really appropriate.
To kind of branch off of your example of modeling, I think then also taking it a step further and saying, when I feel really stressed, sometimes it's really helpful for me to take a walk. And that helps me feel more comfortable and less anxious. Would you maybe want to go for a walk with me? And just giving some practical suggestions about what effective and healthy coping skills might look like.
Mm-hmm. Good suggestions. Yeah. Kelsey, what are you hearing from kids and teens about the approaching school year? Like, what are the actual kids saying?
Yeah. I've actually saw some kids today, and so I was making sure I was asking that question as we're kind of nearing the start of school. I would say some are looking forward to school, however that might look, while others are kind of worried or nervous about what it's going to look like. They're kind of unsure. And it's kind of tricky too, because there is so many differences in the school districts as to what school is going to look like. And so, I have kids who are going 4 days a week, 2 days a week, or, doing completely distance learning. So everyone's kind of year is going to start and look a little bit different. And so kind of having those mixed feelings of, kind of that school excitement. I know some are doing, still kind of doing back to school shopping and some of those normal activities that you do before school starts. And so they were showing me kind of their backpacks and school supplies that kind of gets them excited about school. While others have been kind of, disappointed if they have to do distance learning because they're going to miss their friends and miss their teachers. And so a mix of emotions, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems very all over the board and somewhat, well, not entirely dependent. There's kids that are relieved to be doing online that actually prefer it. And then there's kids that are really bummed out about it. I've got kids that, academically feel pretty solid, but socially they're concerned about being, how they're going to connect with their friends. And so it's really, some kids, my son is going to have to start school 40 minutes earlier than he has. So like for him, like, just hold the phone here, So I think, sometimes there's just very logistical, practical things that kids are going to react to as well. And it's kind of all just a mix. Paige, I'm curious, you do some parent-child work and especially with your teens. I'm curious what you notice about family interactions and dynamics and that sort of thing emerging right now.
Kind of to go off of Kelsey, I think it's been kind of a mixed bag. Everybody has been kind of on the edge of their seat waiting to see what's going to happen next. And with school districts being so varied in their approach to how the school year is going to go, I think that has significantly impacted the stress level that's been on the family, especially as parents are trying to decide whether they are going back to work in person or whether they even have that option. And if their kids are doing a distance learning or hybrid models, what then who's going to take care of the kids during the day when there are no adults at home? And so just everybody kind of balancing their own stress levels. And like you said, Gretchen, with stress levels being high, tension also tends to be high, and people are a little bit more frustrated and easy to snap and get irritated. And with being in close quarters for the last 6 months, I think everybody has been on each other's nerves quite a bit. And some are really ready to get back to school, especially if they're able to do some of it in person, just because they get a little bit of distance from their family, who they love, but also can be a little close during the last 6 months here.
Yeah, I mean, it is really true. And I suspect a lot of parents kind of not dreading, how those parent-child dynamics are going to, I mean, right now we're in this anticipatory phase. We're not actually having to place demands on our kids yet, but soon we will. And so we might have to revisit that question when we're back to having, parents being in that monitor role for the kids that are doing distance learning. Yeah.
Especially for the kids that really struggle to have that self-determination and really are excelling at figuring out a schedule and getting their work done. If parents are working from home and have that luxury to be able to do so, if their kids are not structured or really struggle in that area, having to then essentially homeschool their kids on top of their full-time job is really stressful across the board.
It is. It really is. We keep coming back to this theme, name it to tame it, right? And the importance, especially in a context that we're in right now, where there's so little over which we have control. But there are things over which we have control. So right now we are in a period of preparation. We are preparing for what this fall is going to bring, and there are some practical things. So yes, name it to tame it, and do what we need to do to prepare. Carla, what are some things that families can be doing now to really set the stage and set the tone and prepare for the start of school in just a few weeks?
Yeah. Well, it's, fall, it's a time for change, right? To change in what the new school year will bring for us parents, even adult learners, right? For our children who are students of all ages, including college age, all the way to maybe what we call school when we bring them to childcare at age 2 or 3, right? Although change, we expect it, it can be stressful. That's what we've all named. And I don't think we even need to name it for the families and parents and students who are watching. But, you know, change also can motivate us, right? So, you know, when we think about motivation, we think about kind of setting up a new schedule. How many times have we thought, oh, we need a schedule? That's what the fall needs, right? Once we get back on schedule, it will feel more certain. Well, this year is different, right? This year, our back to school routine is filled with uncertainty. And that's no small thing. These uncertain times is what is motivating us to have these conversations, and really what we started talking about at length last week. So back to what practical things can we do? How can we listen and really hear each other in how we're all handling this uncertainty? So let's kind of channel back to that back to school time and really think about what we might be able to do. I thought I'd frame it with kind of the apropos ABC. How's that? I'm even going to throw in a D. All right. So
All right.
ABC.
Lay it on us. Here we go.
All right. So A for allow. Allow in this time of uncertainty, COVID, in a time where we crave and expect some certainty, school starting, right? That used to mean we knew exactly what to do. We scheduled a trip to Target. We looked at the schedule. We figured it out. We adjusted our work schedules back to knowing the kids would be taken care of. Well, guess what? Now, thanks COVID, that's not happening for a lot of us, at least not in the way that we would expect. So what can we do right now? I want to offer allow. So what does allow mean? We need to allow for kids to not know for sure. We need to allow for ourselves to not know for sure. We must really teach our kids to tolerate not knowing. And tolerating not knowing is tolerating discomfort. And that's not an easy thing. But that is exactly what we need to model for our kids right now. I heard that from both Kelsey and Paige as they talked about the kids that they just spoke to today, right? This couldn't be more immediate. We've been hearing it from kids. Maybe our type A's started talking about it at the beginning of August, but we know that all kids now are like, whoa, I thought this is school time. So what does that mean? And this year, it's not knowing. And that's really hard. And I think for us as parents, and Gretchen, you just spoke to it in this time of like us being barometers for our kids, and we don't know either. So what is that? I think what allow helps us do is allow to not know, to tolerate the discomfort, and then to validate the feelings that those bring. And that validation, those feelings, Kelsey, I think you spoke to it at the beginning of our time today, right? Is that all of these feelings are okay. It doesn't mean one feeling is the best. If you get worried because of this, guess what? We'd expect that. If you feel like, whoa, I can't plan anything and feel very overwhelmed, that brings some discomfort. And if we can validate that in our kids and ourselves, or maybe first ourselves, and then model it for our kids, that's a gift. That's going to be exactly what our kids need during this time of uncertainty. So allow. Second, B, our brainstorm. Okay, why do I say brainstorm when I'm talking about allow? Moving forward together with kind of this allowing things to be uncomfortable helps us think about how we can make them get better, feel better. Okay, it's that simple and that hard. So let's talk about that. So what we really want to do with our kids in this time of uncertainty is really help them figure out how to make things feel better. That's it. That's it. So we need to really start being kind of creative for that, right? So brainstorming is the way that we do this together. And that is actually the really important piece to this. Brainstorming together helps kids feel both seen and heard, right? We're validating those feelings. We're asking them, what do you think would feel better than that? Because that doesn't feel very good, does it? And it's then empowering them to come up with some of their own ideas. Because guess what? If we don't know all the answers, which we certainly don't, kids will come up with ones that they probably think are even better than the ones we would come up with. You know how that works, right? Kids are really creative, and if we can allow that and brainstorm together, they can come up with some of their own ideas. That's my C, creative. So before we can get creative, we have to be curious. You get 2 C's for 1 here. Being curious helps you think, remember to validate. You're curious about what is happening for them today and what's happening for them as they start school or whatever it means for them, this new time of transition in the fall. And then we can get creative together how to get to that feeling better place. Okay, so curious. Here are some questions. What did you learn about today? How about, what is something interesting? Tell me something interesting today. No, I knew that one before. What else would be interesting? Well, that's funny. Funny's good too, but what's interesting? Oh, and that one sounds like it's fun, right? How great to be able to offer our kids this curious nature of what happened to them that day that then allows them to get over that hump of discomfort and start thinking about what makes them feel better. Now, doesn't mean you have to stay away from what was tough today. That's a great, curious question. What was the toughest part of your day today? And if we start hearing some of the same things from kids over and over again, all of a sudden we really see them, don't we? And when we really see them and can slow down and be creative together, that's really something that's wonderful to offer our kids. So A, B, C, now we're in D. I'm going to throw in D because this is the real practical part that we started talking about way back in the beginning of our time together today. D is for do. That scheduling, that structure we talked about, that is critical during this time of uncertainty. This is fall, right? Fall brings school, and fall brings a new schedule for all of us. So doing and figuring out a schedule can be something that really anchors us. I think we all spoke to that last time we talked together, that anchor, those anchors, those buoys that really help us with thinking about what we're going to do next, right? Once we're anchored, we have stability, we're grounded. So come up with a schedule. Maybe the schedule is simply from those feeling good ideas that we talked about earlier. Your kids will know that. Schedule is also the things that you do every day. It doesn't have to be something new in your brain. It's what time do you usually wake up? You reuse parts of what helped you last year during this time, even though there was no COVID last year. Maybe you moved bedtimes back. Maybe you all had breakfast together. Maybe you went out and bought at Costco that kind of huge pack of oatmeal that had all the different flavors, and they got to choose one for Monday, one for Tuesday, right? Those things that really brought you a sense of consistency, predictability, something that kids can anchor. Maybe this year you get to plan lunches together every other day if you're home for a hybrid model. So reuse and rethink about what has really worked for you in the past and what you can implement in the future now to get more of that feel good piece. So that's part of what I'd love to offer, and I'd be so interested to hear if any of that resonated with each of you.
Yeah, for sure. I think, the D's and the rituals and the routines, this may be a year where we start to develop new rituals because things do look so different. And so, because I think rituals, to your point, Carla, do anchor us, right? They're a way of, because you can always return to the ritual. And I'm talking about functional rituals, right? Rituals that serve a purpose and that help us do things. So you alluded to a couple, right? Picking out the things for the week. Like those can be kind of ritual things that you do every Sunday night. This is what you guys do together. In the past I've had kids that sometimes Sunday night, getting dressed in the morning's hard. So Sunday night they pick it for the week. It's laid out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? Makes the rest of the week just be automatic, right? So I do. There's those are little things, but they do anchor. Just as Carla was saying, they really do. They bring you back, right? When you start to kind of go out here and but what if, but what if, but what if, but what if, but let's just pick out our clothes for Monday, right? Let's just come back to our anchor points and get settled and grounded. I don't know what Monday will bring, but I do know we're going to get up, we're going to brush our teeth, we're going to eat breakfast, right? We're going to sit down in whatever way, shape, or form, go get on the bus or sit down in front of our iPad or screen or whatever it is, and we're going to start school. And I don't know what that school day is going to bring, but I know we're going to have lunch again, and I know we're going to, right? There's just these anchors, right? So you have these periods of uncertainty maybe in between that are less predictable, but you always come back to those really concrete, predictable parts of your day, routines and rituals. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also like the brainstorming part that Carla brought up, because a lot of times we might make assumptions as to what kids are worried about or what's kind of their biggest concern based off what's our biggest concern. And so we sometimes just go in and try to fix the problem when maybe we're actually not fixing the right thing. So really having that conversation to brainstorm to really get a better understanding of what the concern is so that you can help kind of fill in the gap. Like with anxiety or worries or nerves, like a lot of times we'll have a gap in our knowledge and we fill it in with our imagination. And especially kids do that on their imagination. I mean, as adults, we do it too. And so trying to move away from maybe that assumption and working with kids to really get a better understanding of what those concerns are, so you can validate and you can work towards kind of a solution to it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kelsey. The curious, yeah, because coming up with solutions, if they're solving the wrong problem, sometimes that happens in families. I've seen it where you've come up with these great solutions, but it's for a different problem than the one that you're actually facing. It's not, that's much less helpful, and you get to it quicker by being curious. Yeah, good point. Yep. Yeah.
And I would just encourage people to be really flexible throughout this time as well, because we all want to set down, routines and schedules as we go into the new school year. But as 2020 has shown us, we need to expect the unexpected and allow ourselves and our kids to be flexible, to make adjustments to those routines and those schedules as COVID allows.
Yes. Yeah, that's also an excellent point. You can't get too locked in. You have to be able to sort of bend and flex in the moments, preferably, right? Kind of like an anchored tree, right? So you're rooted and you're strong, but you can flex in the wind, right? You can bend and you can flex in the wind, but still be steady, right? Still have your roots anchored and deep, but with some flexibility and some bend. Absolutely.
And I love to think about some of that as kind of guideposts. Some of those rituals and routines are almost like these guideposts you stop by and take a break, or you, like a tree, it can bend and be flexible. And, really, if we are really walking alongside each other on this journey, then we can figure out when we need to take breaks, right? When we need to stray off the path a bit to be flexible and adaptable. And that kind of reliance on more routines and rituals kind of has this comforting rhythm. So just as we talk so much about tolerating discomfort in this time of uncertainty, finding those rhythms and that comfort together can be so helpful and so grounding for us all.
Very well said. Yes. Thank you very much again, team, for giving up some of your evening. And I hope that those of you watching, hopefully you did come away with some practical things, some things that resonated with you. Hopefully maybe you felt a little more grounded at the end, like had some ideas like, oh, yes, that I can do. That was our hope for you. And so hopefully you do walk away with some nuggets that can be really helpful. So does anyone have any last thoughts that they just really want to put out there for people watching?
Just sending love and good vibes to all those teacher-related families, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure.
Teachers, yeah. Teachers get a lot of, empathy and yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough, very tough. Tough job ordinarily. This year, it's just extraordinary what they're really pulling together. So, well, thank you, Blossom team, and thanks for those of you that are watching. And we may have more of these coming. We've thought perhaps some more bite-sized pieces here and there that would maybe be in the 5 to 7 minute range. So not so much at once, but we'll see what we're able to put through and put together. But thank you again. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.